Sorry, I'm just checking whether we have the audio started. Okay, it's just good to go now. And the webinar series is our effort, British Council effort in strengthening the community of English teachers among ASEAN countries, as well as to promote global online course with the same name of this event. And the course is 100% free, and it is now open for register. And you could find a link to our free online course in the chat box, which I believe my colleague will put the link in the chat box in a minute. I can see now we have quite a lot of audience saying hi, hello. In the chat box, we have people from Vietnam, from Thailand as well. And as I mentioned before, like this webinar is the first webinar of this series of 2022, and we started our new year with very impressive of participants. We have more than 2,000 people registered for this event. And for those of you who are already with us now, as you are doing, we'd like to know where you're from. So please write your country in the chat box below and we can say hi to each other. Before we talk to our speaker, let me inform you a couple of things. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be uploaded on the British Council YouTube channel later to this event. And the second of all, for the audience joining in Zoom, we really encourage you to share your thoughts, your suggestion, and your question in the chat box, which is brilliant. And for those of you who are watching from YouTube Live, my colleague will also be picking your question from the comment sections as well. Lastly, the certificate will be available after you completed the survey at the end of our event. The survey code and the link will also be posted in the chat box. And that's all the boring bits. Now let's meet our speaker. Today we are very honored. We have 4 speakers from 4 countries. We have Acha from Thailand, we have Hussein from Indonesia, we have Dr. Sheikh from Vietnam, and we have Ton from Myanmar. I think if that is all right, maybe I can start with Kun Acha. Maybe Kun Acha, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience? Let us know where you're working, what level of student you're teaching, maybe how many years you've been teaching, and just get to know you.
Yes, hello everybody, and it's my honor to be here today. And thank you for British Council to organizing this event. Okay, my name is Acha, and I'm a secondary school teacher. I have been teaching in this high school level for 12 years, and I have been teaching fundamental courses, listening, speaking, and also reading. It's like kind of variety of courses in the school. And my school is in Phetchabun, Thailand, and it is quite a big school because this is the provincial school. Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Kunacha. Because Kunacha from secondary school teacher, maybe I can pass on to Hussein, who I know from secondary school teachers as well. Hussein, if you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself? Hussein?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hussein Suronoto. I'm an English teacher of public school SMA Negeri 1 Tibawa in senior high school. I've been teaching almost 13 years old, and I'm glad to be here as a panelist in ASEAN Teachers webinar series, and then allow me to send my honor to all panelists, to host, and all participants on this event. Good afternoon dan selamat sore from Gorontalo, Indonesia.
Thank you, Hussein. We have 2 secondary school teachers. Can I pass on to Dr. Sheikh next? Dr. Sheikh, you're teaching student in the university, right? And could you please introduce yourself to us for a bit? Dr. Shi, are you still with us?
For more than 30 literature.
I think you are breaking up for a bit, or it's just my internet connection is not good. Can everyone hear Dr. Shi well?
No, we don't hear clearly.
Can I? Maybe can I pass this on to Ton first, and then we go to Dr. Shi later. Is that all right?
Okay, thank you both. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from Myanmar. So first of all, I feel really honored to be here, and thank you for British Council for the opportunity to talk and share our experiences with the regional affairs as well. So I'm Yu Tan Tong. So it might be difficult, for you to pronounce. So you can call me Tong. So I am, executive director of Impact Institute, a local educational institution located in Yangon. So I started my career in ELT as a young learner teacher for summer courses in 2004. So later, I moved on to more advanced, levels, and now teaching academic English, business English, and writing courses for, working professionals, and also, exam preparation courses for IELTS exams. So I also design and deliver, teacher trainings for local teachers of English. So such as, TKT preparation courses for novice teachers. So in addition to these, I also work for, NGOs and corporates and government departments as trainers and consultant for their capacity strengthening projects and in-house trainings. So which means I work for different sectors sometimes. So not only as a ELT practitioner, but also a learning development specialist. Yeah. Nice to meet you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Tun. I see we have Dr. Shi back with us now.
I'm sorry, it was just the internet connection. So I was in the middle of telling about myself. As I have already told you, we have 31 years of experience in teaching English to students of varying levels of English proficiency. And we have students from, senior high school, and we have students of the early and also the senior years of college. And we've been teaching and we have been providing teacher training, and also I have been engaged with several CPD training programs for teachers in the central part of Vietnam. It is my pleasure to join the webinar and to speak with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shi. Just to update to our panelists and the audience now, we're very exciting. Now we have the audience of 421 people joining us from Zoom. I think that's very impressive number. And so, just to remind the audience as well, we are welcome to suggestion or your thought, because we create this webinar series is for us to share best practice and suggestion about that. We now know all the speaker, and can I pass to the next question on? Now we know what you're teaching context, but maybe it would be good that we know your challenges, your day-to-day challenges in terms of teaching speakings in your context as well. And it could be challenges for the student themselves to practice speaking, or the challenges from you as a teacher or teacher trainer. Maybe if that's all right, can I start with Dr. Shi? Do you want to share challenges on your side to us?
Yeah, thank you for the question set regarding the challenge in teaching speaking to students. And I have already told you, we are teaching students at the university, and so students are not at the very beginning level of learning speaking, but they are at quite an advanced level. So what we see at the biggest challenge is how to facilitate their speaking naturally and getting them closer at they could be to the level of native speakers. So it's very important to facilitate that talk, to increase their talking time, and to step back a little bit and give them the freedom to inspire them to talk, to motivate them to talk, and to feel that there is no constraint at all in speaking a foreign language. What is important is that we would like to remove the obstacle of the native tongue, you know, the mother tongue, because some poorer performing students, they often think in a mother tongue and then try to transfer the message into English. So that can be a bit challenge. And another challenge is that some students would like to, you know, say they would like to show their talent, so they don't want to make any mistakes. They are scared of making mistake and become humiliated by other peers, other students. So it is very important to understand this kind of perspective from students in order to facilitate them in talking in front of, you know, public audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe a lot of us share the same challenges with your students as well. Is that the same thing you're facing when you're teaching younger or teenage students as well? For asking maybe toward like Acha and Husin, because you're teaching younger students. Is it the same challenges you face, or you face different challenges? Your career, maybe I can start with Acha.
Thank you very much. So I would say we have quite similar challenges to Dr. Shi. For example, the student mother tongue, which is Thai, you know, and I teach teenagers. So they are, you know, very, very different from each other. So sometimes they don't want to speak because they don't know why they have to speak in the classroom. What's the purpose for it? So it means like they are not interested in the topic at all. When teachers like pick the topic herself, you know, the students don't want to talk about it. Why? What is the reason? And also Thai students in my school, they are worried too much about grammar and vocabulary. They have to process in their brain all the time how to make sentences correctly. Like they try to be perfect, and they are scared of mistakes. That is the reason why they don't want to speak. Like another challenge could be anxiety to speak. So yeah, this is they become fearful of speaking in front of their peers. So this is our job to make them feel more comfortable to speak in you know, F2 language. Yes.
Thank you. So like it's the challenge of student kind of afraid to speak English and take some time to process and think about like the first language before they speak English. Is that the same thing you're facing in terms of challenges for the student? Husin?
All right, thank you. I think all the country who could take English as a foreign language has a quite similar challenges in teaching speaking. So since I teach English in my school, I found a lot of problem in teaching speaking skill to my student. Like the student have a good preparation in learning speaking in the class, or and then time schedule from the school. And then the third is student anxiety and confidence problem from the student itself. I think those problem is one of the problem why the student hard to speak English.
Thank you. that's a shared student interest in the topic, preparation time. What about you, Tin? I think we have quite common theme here in terms of challenges because you teach kind of like more variety of English language learner, not only just young kids, not young adult, but in like different sectors as well. Would you say that you have quite similar challenges, or your challenges will be different from our speaker that I have just mentioned here?
Me, yeah. Yes, it could be regarded that our challenges could be quite similar because we are teaching the like ASEAN people, right? So in our context as well, English has been taught as a subject, not as a language for communication, and taught with exam-oriented approaches. So from KG to high school, so even at university. So before the recent curriculum reform in 2017, if I remember correctly. And also vocabulary is taught in isolations, and also grammar translation methods is heavily employed. So with less emphasis on you know uh, oral fluency. So so needless to say, most learners are weak in oral fluency. So although they have good grammatical knowledge and range of vocabulary, so they can read well, so write to a certain degree. But when they get into our language classroom, so they are usually shy, quiet, and not quite comfortable and confident to speak in English. So they have to focus more on accuracy, at school rather than fluency. So they are quite, afraid of making mistakes. So like the previous speakers already mentioned. So the very first challenge for us as a language teacher is, to get them, communicate in English, you know. So in other words, to motivate and facilitate them to start speaking in English with comfort and confidence. So another challenge, like the, one, that this previous speaker already mentioned is that, the mother tongue interference. So because we learn the language, as the, foreign language learners. So they usually look for word translations. So since they are taught by, grammar translation methods at school, so they try to speak, as the way they think in their mother tongue. So these are the common challenges we usually encounter in our classrooms when we teach speakings. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very useful to know. Maybe the audience, I think if you can share your challenges in your teaching speaking to the students, that would be useful. I believe that would be useful for the panelists and other audiences joining us here as well. And that the challenges, maybe if that is all right, maybe can ask you more about like what now that we know that our learner, our student have this kind of challenges, how do you normally deal like just like to ease the student out from like anxiety or fear of making mistake, or how do you just teach them so that like encourage the speaking more and be more confident in speaking English? How do you normally do that?
So meet again. Yeah.
Is that all right?
It's still okay. Yeah. So the very first thing I do is, building a good rapport, with my students, and also break the ice, among them as well, to assure them that, our class is a positive learning environment, so to be in, and also to learn the language together. So this is also the, most essential one to manage, our teaching and learning process effectively, and also to reduce the, effective filters, as already, Dr. Chiu already mentioned, right? So I also introduce, new language items through different fun activities as well, so that they're getting to believe, learning English is quite enjoyable. So the whole class activities such as, find someone who, so to start talking in English with leisure challenges, okay, while mingling in the class are usually, exciting for them and they really enjoy it. So which could really make them, communicate in English. So I also help them develop, positive attitudes, because attitude is also an important matter as well. So kind of you can do it attitude, and also making mistake is a normal part of learning. So it almost always works for me. So after a certain activities, in the beginning of a course, So they became quite, active and also start talking more and more in English. So only when they are quite comfortable and, gain confidence in communicating in these, small talks. So I moved on to more advanced, abstract and, challenging topics. Another approach I employed is, scaffolding, so teaching the language with, the increasing level of difficulty and complexity. So smaller pieces first and larger pieces later. So for example, I teach, how to make different questions types first, because, people love to ask questions, right? So instead of answering, so then I let them, start having small talks in English, using the questions they form, and then move on to more complicated talks. So in addition, I usually develop, materials, okay, new handouts and worksheets for my class activities as well. So based on the students, personal information I received, through their application forms, so that the learners, can really personalize their answers. So I believe, personalization is another effective approach I believe in, So people love to share their experience and ideas, okay, don't they? So I design, personalized topics, and yes, they love to talk about their personal interest and experiences and enjoy, these activities. So rather than, the materials, the exercises included in the, ready-made course books. So these are the, common approaches I usually employ, when I teach, speaking to my students. Yeah.
Thank you. I believe that's a very useful um, technique, or if I would call solution. I saw that our speaker keep like nodding to what you said as well. I saw Acha nodding like strongly on the point of kind of breaking the ice of building confidence with students. And the activity like getting to know you and stuff like that. Maybe you like to share, if that is okay with you. I ask you if you like to share your like solutions in terms of kind of helping or building confidence for the student to speak more. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, totally. I would like to say that I agree with
Tom?
Tan, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. To do the ice breaking activity, and I will share the different ones. Like as a teacher, we need to take the role as the facilitator, encourage the students to speak. Like I mentioned before, students don't want to speak because they don't know the purposes of speaking in the classroom. So I always start my class by showing them the clear objectives of the class, why they are here, what they are going to achieve by the end of the lessons. It's a like, let's just say we set clear objectives. For example, if we would like them to talk about their best vacation, let's say, so what do they have to know? So we think back, as the teacher, we think back to the process of doing lesson planning, right? And we scaffold the students. They need to have the vocabulary. They need to have willingness to speak. So once they know that, oh, it's their best vacation, not any others, they are willing to share their own. So they come up with their ideas. Oh, they know that they have experience to share, but they need the language from the teacher and also from their peers as well. So preparation time, like is very important for them. Without students thinking time, they feel nervous to speak. Teacher, I don't know how to speak. I don't know what to speak. We need to give them time to think about it. But as the limit of time, for example, in Thailand, one period lasts for 50 minutes. So you have to plan the lesson well. How can you scaffold the student? How to help the student to be able to talk about the best vacation, right? So this is what I would like to share. Lesson planning is the key for the teacher. Yes, and I will add one. We can try to have variety of activities for them as well. So they enjoy the interaction patterns that happen in the classroom, something like that. So we convince them more to speak. Yes.
It's a very good point, and I can see the audience are quite supportive to our idea from Tune Idea and other ideas as well. Can I pass to who's in next? Because like in terms of what activities or what do you do in your classroom in order to encourage students speaking more?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Actually, I have some activity with Acha because I have told people that preparation is the more important when we are teaching a speaking skill. So when I teaching speaking skill to my student, I try to choose an interesting topic to my student, and then the student mention the word they know about the topic, and then they use the word in the sentence or asking a question by using that topic. I think that was a good activity to enhance the students' vocabulary. I think because vocabulary is important to make communication with others. And then the second is about lesson plan. So we have the limited time to teaching speaking skill in the class. So the teacher should make should arrange the time in a good activity, I think. And also student to overcome the student anxiety and confidence problem. As you know that I taught you that English is a foreign language in my country, so I give motivation to the student, to my student, that come on, speak up, use your own English word. No problem you make mistake, no problem you make some error in pronunciation. Remember, the main point in speaking is you can deliver the idea to the others. It's okay. It's okay to make mistake and error in pronounce or grammar, I think. And then about confidence and anxiety, I think it's also give influence to the student to the student in speaking English. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the most important message for us language learner. I myself, I was student before and still practicing speaking English myself. I feel like I have to remind myself it's okay to make mistakes. So making your classroom more comfortable environment is, I think, I support your ideas as well. Do you still have Dr. I mean, you mentioned before your student tend to kind of takes a lot of time to think about in the first language, the mother tongue, before speaking, not feeling comfortable speaking. I mean, are you sharing the same sort of technique, or do you want to share to us a little bit more of how do you normally do in terms of tackling this issue? You're on mute, Dr. Shi.
Sorry. So thank you for the question. I totally agree with the previous panelists regarding personalization and scaffolding. And I feel quite strongly that as a teacher of teaching speaking to students, I find it very important to integrate critical and creative thinking into the process of speaking, making students feel quite strongly that they are developing communicative language competence. It's not just for the matter of completing a listening or speaking task. It is about developing the ability to communicate. So I feel, so for that reason, I often think about how to scaffold students and help them throughout the process. So starting with, promoting the ability to do brainstorming, elicitation, and mind mapping. And by doing that, you really facilitate their thinking skill their cognitive ability together with critical and creative thinking. For example, in answering the question, who are you very close to in your family? So they can start with, oh, it's my mom. So you say, okay, why your mom but not your dad? What is special about your mom? What do you have in common? Can you tell it an example that really shows that you are very, very close to your mom? And what you do together, do you have anything in common or share the taste in music, in clothes, something like this? So by doing this, you really help students structure the argument. So starting with the argument and then with examples and reason and results and comparison and contrast and giving example. I think that is very important for developing students' skill to speak and to communicate, and by structuring the argument with example, with evidence. So you really help students build up their competence and their ability to communicate without fear of making mistakes. So it gives them a reason to talk, and we are along the way facilitating, scaffolding the whole process of meaning making. I think that is very significant for students. So that is another point I would like to add, together with the points made by the previous panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very useful advice, and a lot of our audience also sharing the same idea of creating comfortable classroom environment, and how it is essential to encourage students to speak more. If I could ask you, if you can share like one top tip to our audience as a teacher who might be teaching speaking as well as you do now, what would your one top tip be in this case? Is that okay? Maybe I start with Hussein first. Your top tip, what your top tip would be?
All right, thank you. My tips to teach speaking skill in my class, in your class also, I think you have to think about the good preparation. In good preparation, include with the student vocabulary, student psychology, student a safe environmental of students in learning, and also a lesson plan of teacher, media you have to use in teaching speaking skill, strategy in learning. So I think preparation is the main important in teaching speaking skill. Thank you.
So preparation time, that's a key from Hussein. What about Tun? If that's all right, I ask you next. What's your top tip for our audience? Are you on mute? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you. What I would like to recommend as a top tip is, be passionate about material development and lesson planning. So which all of our panelists already suggested that, So we need to love, designing and, developing new teaching materials, handouts and worksheets. So adapting the existing ones so that our materials, could be really relevant to our, students' interest and, experiences and their learning needs. So I know, material development is, quite time consuming and, boring sometimes, if you have to do it alone. So, but it's a must, I believe in, so don't just rely on, ready-made course books. So I could totally understand that, we have to rely on, the course book, available in the market, due to our, tight schedule, okay, for our lesson planning and, material development. But almost every course book, includes certain contents which do not meet our learners' needs and interest, and also sometimes does not fit in our cultural context as well. So don't forget to try to talk to so don't just rely on course books. So be really into, material development and, lesson planning. So try to at least, try to adapt, existing materials instead of, using it, regularly. So repeating it again and again. So, and don't forget to try to talk to our students very often as well. So that, we get, we gain certain, insights, certain ideas from them, for our lesson planning and material development. So be interested in your learners as well, so their lives. So that's what I would like to recommend. Yeah.
Thank you. We have our audience say adopt. We have teacher David James. Channeling top tip is to produce dialogue that student can incorporate vocabulary they may know. That's a very good point. So I mean, if our audience have some tip to share, please keep it going so we can share our top tip in the community. Can I ask about top tip to Acha next? What's your top tip? It could be the same or different, depends.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say that I do agree with Tun, because I adapted and materials a lot, but it won't be successful if we don't have this one. So this is my top tip. So as the teacher, we cannot avoid monitoring and feedback. Okay. When our students are speaking, teachers need to be good and active listeners, so that we can jot down some of the student mistakes.
Yeah.
And then give feedback to them later. It depends on the activities that you focus on, accuracy or fluency. If you focus on fluency, just leave it at the end of the lesson before you give feedback, so that you don't interrupt your student fluency or speaking time. And also we have to think about how we can correct the student in the way that we won't make them feel embarrassed, something like that. So this is very important to us. We will never know whether our students develop something in speaking skill if we don't monitor them and see their progress by giving them feedback. Yes, this is my top tip. Yeah, but you need to know when and how.
That's a very good point, an important one. And we come to our last speaker, Dr. Shi, your top tip. Can you please share with us?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Anja, when you talk about giving the right compliments and giving feedback. I myself, and I stress enough, I myself find it very important to motivate students, to inspire students to talk. Speaking is, often the most scaring activity, the most scaring ability that students want to build up. A lot of them could be very competent reader, competent writer, but when it comes to speaking, there is some kind of class ceiling that really can, hinder people from the process of speaking. So as a teacher, I think it's very important to motivate students, to scaffold every stage of students' development of their ability. So when it comes to speaking in the classroom in front of others, it is us who would come and share their anxiety, sorrow, and you also facilitate, okay, no worry, you can do it. I trust you. Say it. And then, you come and say, oh, come on, yeah, that is a very good point. And you show that you are a very active listener, providing the hints of some small successes. And you say, okay, you did that. Well, I love it. Now continue. What do you think about by doing this? Scaffolding, facilitating, inspiring students to speak, to develop speaking, and this kind of trust that you need to build up in your student, making them feel like comfortable, making feel like they are in a very supportive, very non-threatening environment where they can speak, out their mind, rather than just conform to grammatical rules and some language patterns, but they use the language to communicate in a natural, in a meaningful way. So that is something I find it very, very important for developing skills of speaking among our students. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very powerful panelists sharing top tip. If you can see, our audience are very strongly agree and share the same top tips as you. As well, feedback is very important for teacher. A lot of them saying the same thing. Comedy should be embraced, being in fun when brainstorming on any dialogue type. This, by the way, shyness of what type of speaking with student, my top tip, and it is working powerfully. Thank you. We have from Tembe Sampon. Apologize if I pronounce your name wrong, but well, thank you for sharing, and please keep sharing as well. And before we answer questions from our audience, we'd like to show you how to register to the latest British Council online course, which is in the same name as this webinar. It is called Teaching Pathway, How to Teach Speaking. The course itself is free, and you will get certificate once you completed the course, or 70% of the course. It has already started on 11 January, and it lasts for 4 weeks. So you can register and study until the end of this month. Let me share with you how the course look. Oh, actually, sorry, can I ask Asha to share the screen? I mean, if you have the link.
Yes, I will share the screen with you now. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, that's it. So this is the course, how the course look like. If you scroll down for a bit,
okay,
you see instruction and steps to sign in the course. Step 1, create an account. Yeah, please. I mean, if for the audience who haven't got an account, you can create free account by clicking that. Or if you already have an account with British Council online course, you can just log in. And if you, can you type your username that you pretty sure you will remember later? Then your address, please. Confirm the email address.
To create password, right?
Yes, please. Password. The audience and I won't be able to see your password, so please type away. Yeah.
Okay.
It's math. You can choose to register to our newsletter or not to. That's fine. It's optional. Notification setting is also optional.
What about this one?
Give a name, so that will be your first name and then your family name. That's from Thailand. Yeah. Set terms and conditions. Create new account.
Oh, the password.
So have to be stronger password.
Okay. Question password in this case. Okay.
I'd say it's good, so and it's math, so I think it should be good to go.
Yes.
That's right. And yes.
Okay.
Yes. You successfully logged in. Can you please scroll down?
Yes.
Now you already have an account. Maybe you can click log into your existing account.
She has to go to, the step 2,
Visit our course
visit
website.
course website. Yeah.
So
That's
what?
step 2.
Step 2.
Visit the course website.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Tuna. because you have already started the course yourself, right?
Yeah, already started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
See.
Oh, so
Yeah.
many.
Yeah. So that's how the course look like, and you can take your time. You can come in, log in to study at your own pace, and you have 4-week window. Well, actually, it's not 4 week now. The course you can register now and keep studying until the end of January, and you get certificate at the end of the course, and it's all free. So we really encourage you to do that if you have time. And thank you, Acha. That's the demonstration for course registration. I think now I'm quite aware of the time. I think we should start answering questions from the audience. Do you have any question from the audience? I think I saw one quick question from the audience before our audience join our event late, whether or not we will do recording after this event finished. So the answer is yes, we are recording our event, and the recording will be available to British Council YouTube channel from British Council Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam as well. So you can find that after the end of the course. We have a question. This course will end on February 7 from Jenny Axay. The answer is no. The course has already started and open for registration on the 11th of January, which is Tuesday last week. And it opens for 4 weeks to do that, which will be, you can study until 31st of January. And we have a question, just I can see now, from John. How do you collect student mispronounce words while keeping their motivation treasure? Can I maybe ask Dr. Shi to answer this first?
Okay, so the question regarding how to keep track of student mispronounced words. So often we would encourage students to do corrective feedback. So instead of telling them this is right or wrong, we can give them, okay, would you say that teenager or teenagers, at the end, in order to develop student fluency. So we keep track of some of the words or some of the wrong intonation or linking sound, so that we can share it with the whole class. So students will learn from each other and they can try to avoid mistake rather than pointing out mistake right in the middle of speaking. That can be very threatening to students.
Thank you, Dr. Shi. Is there anyone have anything to add from Dr. Shi point on collecting students' pronunciation? Yeah, I think if that's okay, I'll move on to the next question. I have this one which I believe quite interesting. Let me go back. Can't find it now. Which one is more important, accuracy or fluency? Maybe Hussein, is that all right? I ask you? What do you think? Which one is more important, accuracy or fluency?
Okay, I try to answer what the important fluency or accuracy. I think both of them is important in speaking skills, because with accuracy we can find um, the good word to deliver our idea, and then with fluency we can speak in a good grammar, good pronunciation. I think that is one of them is important in speaking. So we have not just accuracy more important than fluency.
Thank you. What about Acha?
I will say it depends. Okay, it depends on the activities. Most of the time we have to think about accuracy as well, because accuracy will contain will contain the meaning. Okay, if we use the wrong word, we can't communicate effectively. But fluency is also really important as well. When the student speak, we don't interrupt them, let them speak or something like that. So it depends on how you set the objectives of that lesson. But I would say accuracy could be more focused in the grammar class rather than the speaking class. Okay, so maybe they learn language before, we focus on accuracy before, and then they practice speaking using the language. So in that class, yeah, we will focus more on fluency. This is my answer to this question.
Thank you. We have a question from the teacher Nurse Shamida on asking how to teach speaking English for young kids, fun and happy. What kind of method can I apply? I am an English teacher, elementary school. I believe we don't have, our panelists are not teaching young learner here, but maybe is that all right? I mean, maybe can I ask Thun to share, because Thun might have a bit more experience teaching in various student level.
Me, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no the best method, I believe, so it also depends on the how you deal with the the tasks as well. But so when you teach the elementary students, okay, start with like kind of chunks, okay, focusing on chunks so that they could start using this particular language chunks for their communication. So then move on to, like previous speakers already mentioned, from move on to fluencies to accuracy as well. So because we need to get them start communicating English so that they really enjoy using the language, okay, learning the language. Then move on to the advanced part, like accuracy, teaching more, learning more grammar, okay, learning more vocabulary, so to be able to expand their conversation. So and also we also need to consider the important aspects of using visualization as well. So instead of using just simple materials, okay, try to use interactive tools, so that especially these days these kids are like digital natives, they are quite okay familiar with digital tools as well. So if you like to teach these kids, so to make your lessons more interesting, you should also integrate these digital technology and also some interactive tools, so that they could really enjoy learning and fun, having fun at the same time. So that is quite a bit difficult, for me, to recommend the best method, because so our context could be a little bit different, and also the previous language learning back, English language background is also different, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Trying to scroll through our audience question. There's one quite interesting question from our audience asking, should we allow students to mix their L1 and L2 in their speaking? Can I ask Dr. Shi? Is that all right?
Uh,
You mentioned a couple
yeah.
times
Yeah.
student using mother tongue.
Yeah, I think that a very interesting question. That is the opportunity and the chances to allow the mother tongue intervention in teaching speaking. I think it is quite appropriate even with teachers. Sometimes we allow teachers to do translanguaging. It means that they can use both English and their native language in giving instructions in the classroom, especially with lower level of student with language proficiency, not to the level that they can understand some very complicated instructions from the part of the teacher. So at that time we can use, but instead of using too much mother tongue, we can use, as Dr. Tong said, we can use like more visualization to facilitate the association between language vocabulary and, for example, point and do and point and say. And so students learn the chant, learn the rhyme, so they become more familiarized themselves with language patterns so that they become more comfortable when we put students out of their comfort zone for the first time. So it is the time which is very critical. We allow some of our mother tongue, jumping in order to help ease the anxiety from the task of speaking. So I think it is quite appropriate to allow both L1 and L2, but it depends at what stage of the lesson. When they come at the beginning, okay, but toward the end, when they come to more free practice, there would be less L1 and there will be more L2 toward the free practice stage. Thank you.
Yeah, we have commenting on this point from actually our colleague Davide on translanguaging, switching between L1 and L2, and student with limited vocab should be allowed to use L1 to a certain extent. And yeah, we have another question which is quite specific to Acha, but I think it may be applied to other speakers as well. Our audience said that agree with Acha's opinion on giving student feedback. And based on your experience, which one is more appropriate, on-spot feedback or feedback at the end of the lesson? What do you think is more important, Acha?
Okay, if on spot feedback, maybe we can call it hot feedback by that time. Maybe it's really important if the students at that time when they are speaking and they make really mistakes, like they couldn't communicate appropriately, like they misunderstand the vocabulary or the meaning or the structures of the sentences are really not good. Okay, so you can help them at that time but don't say it's wrong to say this. Just maybe repeat the correct sentence to the student or do the reformulation one to the student. Like Dr. Shi said before, we can say, could you please say something? Oh, listen and repeat, or something like that. Try to make positive environment to the student if that one is necessary at that time. Okay, but if you have 50 students in the classroom, okay, you cannot give individual feedback to everyone at that time they are speaking. So be like active listener, note down some common mistakes, and then give feedback later as the whole class. And also you can elicit, from the student, ask the student to help others to give feedback as well. Like, for example, you can say, is it correct to say, what is the correct one? Something like that. So this is what I would like to say. Okay, it depends on how they perform at that time. Yes.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point when you talk about the role of giving prompt feedback or delay feedback. You know, it is very interesting. But in order to avoid making students embarrassed, often we find I think it is very important to teach students to think about making mistakes is a very natural element of language learning. So I would say, okay, I would say teenager. Am I wrong? If you say I'm wrong, put your, okay, thumb up. If you think I'm right, thumb down. So they find it, finding out mistake would be something very fun. It could create a kind of, non-threatening environment where students are engaged in the process of teaching others rather than we teaching students. So students find it very important and find it very motivating to do that as well. That is a very good, the point I would like to share together with your points.
Thank you very much. Do Tun or Husin, do you want anything? Do you have anything to add to the point or another tips to the point on giving feedback?
Yes, giving feedback, we could also employ, kind of, peer, feedback as well, when they, okay, talk to each other. So they listen to each other and try to notice, which ones, could be the, the correct version. So they could also assess each other as well, which could be the better version of, so what they are supposed to say. So another thing is, like modeling as well, the teacher. So like Achar already said that, we try to monitor. So we try to listen actively and we try to take notes of, certain common mistakes. And then we try to model it, instead of saying that, who made this particular mistake. I just use what I usually do is, someone said, this one, in a particular way, but it should be said, that way. So kind of modeling is also, so it could also giving, a kind of positive feedback on the, the mistakes they make. So without, kind of, embarrassing, the students as well. Yeah, that's what I usually do when I give feedback as well.
Thank you. I'm quite aware of the time we have. It's 1 minute past 5, and I believe I have to move to the closure of this webinar. Let me share my screen. Is it this one? Okay. Right. Can you see my screen? I believe you can see my screen. Anyway, so but that's the kind of almost concluded to our event today, which is how to teach speaking. But it's not just the end. I kind of encourage us to keep sharing and keep the discussion going. And for that's our event, and it's just like to kind of promote another event which is coming up on this Saturday, 22nd of January as well. It's Saturday Tech Talk on the topics of tips on designing and planning blended learning environment, which could be somewhat related to the topic we just shared. And then I posted the register and QR code here. We can register or copy the link to register here below. And that's one event I have. And lastly, the end of webinar survey, which you can use your mobile phone, scan the QR code here on the screen, or go to the webinar survey link, which is also provided here. And when you completed the end of webinar survey, you will get the link to download the certificate of attendance to these events as well. So I think I'd like to end here. I'd like to thank you, our lovely speaker, knowledgeable speaker, sharing with us like tips and trick and technique of how to encourage our students to speak more English. And thank you, the audience, for like wonderful sharing on suggestions and ideas as well. We are ended with the number of audience at 426 audience. That's very impressive. And yeah, thank you. That's a goodbye for me. I don't know how to end. Thank you, and see you again in the next webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for the opportunity to share together with you all as well. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity as well. Lovely webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
We will get the certificate as well, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we need to fill the link to get the
kidding.
certificate as well, right?
I will send you the certificate after the end of this event.
All right.
kidding.
Thank you, Shaki. Yeah.
Thank you, Awacha. Thank you, Tune. Thank you,
Hope to
Dr.
see you
Shi
again.
and Hussein. Hope to see you again.
Yeah,
Thank
see
you. Thank you
again.
very
Yeah.
much.
Bye.
I love the experience as well. Thank you very much. Thank
Bye.
you.
See you all.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a good
You
evening.
too.
Thank you.